first time going live. And I'm going to wait here for some folks to show up. I see some people showing up now. And then we'll get into it. I'm pretty excited. We've been working on this. We had the initial idea about, let me see, November, so 2 years ago, just about coming in at 2 years. And today we're really launching something new. So I've talked to a lot of people about it. I think probably if you're on this call, if you're listening, if you're watching right now, then there's a good chance that I've already talked to you about this before. Maybe one of my compatriots, folks that I work with and do life with. One of them might have told you about it already. The idea has evolved and grown, and I'm sure it will continue to. And that's what I'm really hoping to talk about today, how you all can be a part of what we're beginning to grow here. So I see Natalie saying hello, and Alex saying hello. Marissa's on. Awesome. Good to see you guys. Go ahead and say hey in the chat if you're here. Let me know where everybody's at. Deepak, great to have you. Okay, so today, I'm excited to kind of share what we're getting into. I have a good plan for what I want to talk about, but ultimately I want this to kind of be, as best we can, a conversation to share with you guys what this is really going to be about. So 2 years ago, sitting with some friends and talking about the impending future and the way AI is disrupting everything, we noticed two really big trends. Okay, the first is that top-down job market disruption by AI, right? And it's actually, everybody can see this happening. Some people have already been impacted by it, but in reality, it's actually far worse than most people think, for a couple of different reasons. If you might look in the news, you can Google it. PwC just got raked over the coals by their clients for admitting that they're using AI to shorten the amount of time that they're getting work done in. And so, of course, the response from their clients was, we want you to charge us less money then. And so the kind of impact of this has been, a lot of people already knew that this was going to happen. And so the way people are dealing with this and responding to this is by not admitting that they're firing people because of AI. So there's massive job market disruption right now, and it's actually worse than is being admitted. So we knew, talking to some investor friends and some different business strategist friends and folks in the industry, we understood there's going to be a massive move of people out of the job market and into entrepreneurship, because those jobs ultimately they aren't coming back. So some people will say, well, it'll create new jobs, right? So during the .com boom, there wasn't a web designer, a webmaster before the .com boom, and it created jobs after that. And Web 2.0 and social media and platforms, there weren't social media strategists before that. But ultimately arguing that AI will disrupt jobs, but it'll create more than it removes. And the fact is in this case, there's been multiple analyses about this. There's a great book written 10 years ago by Federico Pistono, who said they realized 10 years ago that the jobs AI is going to replace is not going to come near to meeting the number of jobs it's going to disrupt. And the amount of jobs all disrupting at once, the shift into new jobs is going to be brutal. And so what you're going to get, one way or another, is you're going to get a lot of people looking to build businesses. So that's trend number one. Massive job market disruption due to AI is going to lead to greater entrepreneurship. The second AI kind of trend line that we recognize there is, at the same time, the same technology that's disrupting the job market is actually lowering the barriers of entry, right? It's making it easier to start a business. So those two factors at once make it pretty clear there's going to be a massive boom in entrepreneurship. And so we recognize that. And immediately, for some of you know my story and some of you don't, I've basically been working with startups, with incubators, with accelerators, and with VC firms, including Andreessen Horowitz and others, since 2012. And so in that time, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs come and go. I've seen a lot of cycles, go through their process. And the main thing that I saw is that we tend to fund the same people over and over and over again, right? So it tends to be like, narcissistic white males with a ton of unearned confidence. And this isn't like a controversial thought within the VC community. It's understood that, like, to some extent, this is just what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. People may not say that out on, CNBC, but behind closed doors, people understand that there's a certain makeup, a certain personality that's going to be successful, and one that's not going to be. And this has never sat well with me. I've never understood it. I've never believed it. I think it's mythology. And ultimately, what we end up seeing is that, even though these folks are continually coming in, continually the ones getting funded, I would see people come in with great ideas, with great plans for their business. I felt very strong about this business, and it wasn't going to be the one that was going to get funded. It just wasn't going to happen. What was going to happen was the person who has a half-baked idea but has really good connections into this firm was going to be the one to get funded. And ultimately, this created a huge problem for me. The whole idea of move fast and break things, the whole idea of a shark tank, or that you need to be a shark in order to be a successful entrepreneur, I think is totally bullshit. I think it's not true at all. I think it is a self-affirming mythology. So the certain group of people believe this, and so then they fund people who are like this, and then they are successful because they got the funding, and then they go and fund the next generation of entrepreneurs like this. And so it's kind of this like self-affirming, self-realizing cult that I'm utterly against. I don't think it's good for the world of business. I think it creates bubbles over and over again. And I don't think it's good for people. What I'd like to see is, I want to see hardworking entrepreneurs who want to be their own boss, who want to own something. I think a lot of people that I see that could be great entrepreneurs, they've already been great employees somewhere. And for whatever reason, they worked hard, took pride in their work, made themselves an expert at something, but they didn't own any of it, and they got a paycheck. But ultimately, the work was not theirs, and they had no control over how they work or when they work. And I think the two extremes, right, of like these super kind of wild-eyed, narcissistic white guys who have no plan and, no real business running a real business, getting funded. And on the other side, these folks who just want to work hard and create something meaningful aren't getting the support that they need. And to me, that creates a massive, massive problem in this industry. So I've been talking about it for the last 2 years, and I want to offer everybody a different option. I want to tell people that you don't need to be a shark, and instead, we've created a new paradigm of entrepreneurship that we're saying are bulls. And if you think about a bull, it's equally as formidable as a shark. In fact, I wouldn't want to fight one any more than fighting a shark. But everything that makes a bull formidable is about protecting the herd. A shark is by nature a predator. It is exploitative. It is destructive. A bull is something that works hard, plows the field, helps the herd, and creates. And these are the types of entrepreneurs we're looking for. And not only that, I think that this is, I think there's signs, if you really want to like buy me a gin and tonic and get me talking about it, I think there are signs that show the old paradigm of entrepreneurship was over 10 years ago. And we've been able to keep gluing it together and keep this kind of Weekend at Bernie's version, this like zombie mythology alive, basically by kind of perverse incentives. And so there's a new way of entrepreneurship coming, and I think that we're just getting ahead of it. I think that the people who I love it. Um, Holly says it makes her think of Ferdinand, and I agree. In fact, that's like the bull that's in my mind as I think about this. So this is what the Taurine Society is all about, right? Taurine. We're not talking about supplements, right? So this is the first question I get about it. What we're talking about is taurine means like a bull or bullish, right? We want to be bullish. I love the fact that bullish also means optimistic. But it's also I want to find entrepreneurs that want to have a good idea and are willing to work their ass off for it. And it's yours. Build something meaningful that's yours. And I think that's good for the individual, and I think that's good for society as well. And so I started getting together. Over the years, I've done work in corporate venture capital and in corporate innovation and with startup groups, and I got together all of my friends and one by one started talking to them and laying out this thesis. And I was surprised at the number of people who said, you know what? I think you're exactly right. We need something exactly like this. And so on the one hand, I think we aren't serving entrepreneurs well. And on the other hand, investors don't like it. You have the same problem, right? Like it's not all investors that are playing this game. It's all modeled after a 1% of investors that basically get all the money. And I'm telling you, I was telling Alex last night, I think of the current funding environment like a mousetrap. It attracts the mice, these entrepreneurs who think that they're going to exploit the investor and get the cheese, right? I'm going to use this investor's money to make my success, right? It attracts these people who are naturally exploitative from the beginning. But in reality, what they don't realize is that investor is actually just creating this mythology in order to lure them in and exploit them. And so I'm not saying this is every investor. Believe me, I'll talk more about that a little bit later. There are lots of investors that hate this model and don't want to invest in people this way. But the fact that the ecosystem is created around it and the fact that there's not a different model to use makes it very, very difficult to do anything differently. So the fact that probably most of you know enough about entrepreneurship and about venture capital at this point to understand that it's leveraging the power law. So the idea is that 9 of their investments are going to fail. They've decided this, right? And they just need one to carry the other 9, right? So if one 10x's, then we're good. The truth is, if you actually do an analysis, which I and other people have done, you can find the information out there. Talk to me if you'd like to see more about it. This is actually performing horribly. It's less than 18% of firms are showing a return. 18% of firms are showing any return. And if you control for the largest firms, I haven't even done that before, right? I haven't even looked at the data that way, but if you control for the largest firms, I'm pretty sure it's only going to get uglier. And so what we need is, first of all, we need a new model for investing that doesn't leverage the power law, and we need to create it in a way that people are willing to jump in on that. And so we started there. And once we had a new model for creating investment vehicles, then we needed a new model for supporting entrepreneurs. And I think you need a couple of different things, right? I think you need a platform to host those people on so that you have one place to interact and talk and and all those things. And I think the other thing you need great playbooks, right? That are constantly iterating and getting better over time, right? So we're creating first of all, we have great playbooks. So one of the things that's very different from the startup world to the corporate venture world is the startup world is kind of like this candy land where anybody can have an idea, and no matter whether that idea makes sense or not, people are going to let you go try it, which there's value in that. I think what there's not value in is not being honest with you about what about that idea has already been solved, and allowing you to waste your time, money, and energy building something that people know is not going to work. And so in the world of corporate venture, that doesn't fly at all, right? The big corporations who are funding new startups, they want to see something highly de-risked. And a huge part of this thesis is this new paradigm of entrepreneur. They aren't wildly risk tolerant, right? It's people who have been successful in academia. It's people who have been successful in the corporate landscape. It's people who want to just a de-risked equation. What is the playbook I can follow? What is the checklist that I can follow that generally is going to work? And that's not to say there's not room for creativity here. It just means ways that we can help you understand the known solved problems. So part of how we came up with this idea is that this is how I built my businesses, right? I went and pitched to a lot of different people. Definitely plenty of people were jerks about it and were like, oh, that's never going to work, or you don't know what you're doing. But it was the people who I went to who saw the same thing. They were right. My idea wasn't going to work. But they said, hey, you know what? That's a really interesting idea. Have you thought about these things? Have you considered doing it this way? And they iterated with me until it was a viable business. And I think everybody deserves that. I think there's a number of different reasons why I got that, and I think everybody should have it. And so we started from the premise of how do we make that kind of ecosystem available to anybody? Starting a business is hard work, okay? And it's not guaranteed, but there is a lot of things that you can do to de-risk that equation. And if you're willing to work hard, I think you should be able to survive starting a business. And so that's kind of the second piece is so first is a platform to house everybody in. The second is playbooks to run. The third is great mentorship, right? That's a big piece of that story that I was just telling is you need people to contextualize these playbooks. You need people to help you understand when is this working and when is it not working and why. And maybe you want to go against their advice, but you would need enough context to know that that's not just you making a big mistake. Right? You need to be able to make an informed decision, and it's great mentors that do that. And so I'm really grateful for some of the mentors we're going to have in. I'm going to keep recruiting people. I mean, the basic story here, I could have cut out the last 10 minutes. It just said, what if my network was yours? And that's one of the things that I want to make available here. A lot of you are here because you know me, or you've gotten some kind of coaching from me, and I want to give more of that. I love working with entrepreneurs. I love exposing the secrets of how to make a great business. I think everybody should do it. I think it's great for society. I think it's great for the economy. I think it's great for the individual. I think it's great for families when you can create a reliable, durable, stable business. And so I want to see more people be able to do that. But unfortunately, my time is not scalable, as probably most of you who've worked with me understand really well, right? It can be really hard to get my time. And so coming together in a community, I've realized is the best way to make not only my time scalable, but a lot of my friends, the people that I rely on for advice, they're willing to come in, and as long as on the promise that this will make their advice more scalable. Now, what's the biggest risk we run on exposing our advice to people? That they don't take it, that they don't listen, that they're not ready, that they're not willing to do the hard work that it takes to build a business, right? That's what most advisors are concerned with. This is a waste of my time if I'm going to talk to this person and they're not going to be able to execute on it, right? And so what we're doing by talking about this paradigm of bullish entrepreneurs, okay, the Taurine Society, is bringing together a, a community that our investors, that our advisors can trust. These are people who are going to work hard and slog it out until this thing comes to be. And the ideas will evolve, right? There are different constraints, and some of them you won't know until you run into them. But you should have resources enough to know a place where you can go, where you can get the advice that says, hey, okay, what do I do now? What's the best way to pivot or change tack in order to continue to be successful? And so that's the third piece. So platform is the first, playbooks is the second, mentorship is the third, and of course the last is funding. And I'll talk more about it a little bit later, but suffice it to say that we've talked to a number of different investors about this model, and ultimately what we're telling them is that we have people that are going to get great mentorship, they're going to get great playbooks, we're going to guide them through the process, and it's a much more iterative approach to building a business. Our goal isn't to win a pitch competition. Our goal is to build a business that will make its own money and get funding if necessary. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how this is going to work. How are we going to structure this this community? The first thing, like I said, we started with how do we make my time more scalable? We're going to have weekly office hours. And so every week there will be every Tuesday at noon, I'm going to make myself available. If you're building a business and you want advice, you want input, if you don't know the first thing about business and you just want to know how to start, you want to understand what an LLC even is. Like, I don't care what stage of building a business you're at. If you're ready to work, you're welcome. And so we want to bring those people in, and every Tuesday at noon, we're going to talk through it. And over the course of the year, we're going to go through a curriculum, the same curriculum. It's been modified slightly, but essentially the same curriculum that we've used to create startups in corporate venture capital. And so there's a playbook, there's a checklist that you run. You need certain things, you need to hit certain milestones as you build. And so this curriculum is matrixed by two what's the word? I wish I could hear you guys. You all shouted at me. Two axes. Man, okay, I got it. It came to me. The first axis is the fundamentals of the business model, right? So you have feasibility, viability, and desirability, right? You have to be able to create a thing of value. You have to be able to make money off of that thing. And then you have to be able to get people to want that thing. Those are the three fundamentals of a business model. And so we're going to look through all three of those lenses at your business, and we're going to do that in 4 stages. The first is just kind of an initial idea validation. The second is prototyping and piloting. The third stage is kind of wiring everything together in systemization. And then finally is launch. And so we're going to go through feasibility. What is it that you're creating of value, and how do you create it? And we're going to do it through all 4 of those stages. And then we're going to go through how do you wrap a business model around that? How do you create a pricing and a cost structure that makes sense, that people will buy? And then third, how do you make people want it? How do you maximize the desirability of this thing? And we're going to go through that all 4 times until you're ready for launch. And what that's going to look like, we've stretched that curriculum over the course of the year. So each month we're hitting a different topic. And so we might not get to go-to-market strategy until June. But if you're here, if you're at these weekly meetings, the first week of the month, we're going to just go over the general topic. The second week of the month, we're going to do a deep dive workshop. The third week of the month, we're going to really get into the specific weeds in different industries and different applications. And then the fourth week of the month, we're really going to try to say, hey, what's not working, right? What do we still need to know to get into this same topic? And at the tail end of that event, each week is going to be just extended office hours. So if the topic this week was on go-to-market strategy, but you're really working on pricing this week or at this stage in your business, then you can stick around for the office hours or just come for that, and you can ask your specific questions there. I'm going to be there as many weeks as I can handle. I'm making the commitment to carve out this period of time in my week. And that way, instead of all these one-to-ones that some of you have been a part of, and it's very hard to get my time to do, it's all going to be centralized in one place. So when I answer the question for one person, I'm actually answering it for everybody. And what I'm asking of you is that you be a member of this community. And so if I've answered a question for you, now you also are part of extending my time. That somebody can now ask the question to the community and say, hey, what is the answer to this? And some of you will have already heard the answer from me, and you can share that. And this is how I think we can come together to create progress in a way that's much more scalable. So in addition to me week to week, we have institutional venture capitalists who are going to come. We have a former head of strategy from Ford. We've got somebody from Lucasfilm and from Burberry. We've got people, amazing mentors from all over the place who will answer all kinds of these questions for us, who will jump in and help us kind of understand better ways to build together. Then we're going to have other events. I think that when we had this idea in November, the first thing that I did is I started looking at existing communities and understanding what's working, what works about them, what doesn't work about them. And what I found is that there's a huge component of this is getting together in person. And so we have a plan to roll out chapters in other cities. For those located in Silicon Valley, this is where we're going to focus on starting first. And we're going to host co-working nights and networking stuff and beach bonfires that are just for fun. We're going to do stuff together because this is how good business is built. If you think that we have a tendency to imagine that businesses are mechanisms, right? Like it's some kind of Rube Goldberg machine. If you just put the right gear in the right place, it just kind of works. And if it isn't working, you just haven't figured out which gear is wrong. And it's like, this just isn't true. It is part of this crazy mythology about startup ecosystems that I don't understand. Businesses are groups of people, fundamentally, right? And it's a very small percentage of businesses that are not groups of people interacting with other people, right? Like I know of a few cases of like drop shippers and things like that. Like, okay, I got it. It's a very small percentage, but we act like that's like the majority of businesses. It's not. And so the idea to think that you're going to build a business all by yourself in your dorm room or in your condo or whatever and not interact with people, it's probably not the case. Okay, so we're going to get together in person. We're going to do things that are fun. We're going to connect as human beings because building a business isn't going to be our entire lives and identity. The other part of that is like there's a loneliness epidemic. And where do you think do you think that's more concentrated than average in entrepreneurs or less, right? Entrepreneurship has been lonely for a really long time, but nowadays with the loneliness epidemic, it's even more concentrated. I won't take credit for that one. That was Alex Duran, who lots of you probably know. He brought that up last night, and I thought that was just a beautiful point, right? There's so many people who are lonely right now. Entrepreneurship makes that even worse. I need everybody to understand how important it is that we get together and we do things and we connect as people socially. The kind of last thing in terms of how this community is going to function that I want to share with you all is badges. Okay, so if you go, maybe I should share my screen here, but then you're going to have to listen to me stay silent while I log into things and look for things. But if you join our community, you'll notice on the left-hand side, there's a link that says, get your badge. And this is vitally important. I'm telling you right now, if somebody, paid the most amount of money to be part of our community, but they're not a badged member, I'm not going to listen to them in the Q&As. It tells me that you're not really invested in being part of this community. And that's what I want to see. I want to see people who are as invested as I am in building what it is that we're doing. And so if you join the community, we'll send links out after this. If you join the community, then go and get your badge. And all it is some very basic things. It's like comment on somebody's post, things like that. And the reason why we do this is because each one of it is a different little investment from you. There's like 15 tasks to do. And each one of those tasks is an investment in a way that you're going to connect with other members and really be a part of this community. Okay. Finally, kind of our master of ceremonies of this community, the person who's going to be, the traffic cop is going to be Alex. If you haven't met Alex Duran, I highly suggest find some time, grab a one-on-one with him. He's taken the mantle to make sure like this thing continues moving forward. And so, he'll make sure you get to the right place or find the thing you need or set up a call or find the right advisor for you. We have a ton of people willing to be a part of this. And there's no reason why anybody shouldn't get the resources that they need. Finally, there's a list of resources that we've put together. So there's going to be some free stuff. A lot of this is coming out soon. Why aren't we launching with all these resources already? Because I absolutely could have put together a bunch of AI slop for you to read. Like, it's very easy to do. You could do it yourselves. Like, that's not actually really that necessary. We're going to take our time with our resources and really make sure that these resources come directly from, and I want them to be specific things, right? So the more we hear from the community that I want to know more about this particular subject. What the hell is an SPV? And is it helpful, or does it work in terms of getting funding? Like, cool. The more I hear from people what it is you want to know, we're going to go out into the community, get real conversations, deep dives with experts in that area, and bring them back to the community. And that's the resources we're going to provide. In addition to that, in our research, we saw how one of the biggest problems that I saw is how much money people spend trying to launch their business. First of all, one of those things is paid advisors, which I'm absolutely against. Please ask me. Like, I don't think you should pay advisors. I think advisors are a critical proof point that can you get this person excited in your vision? And if you can't, if you need to pay them, then it's you're already skipping a step, right? You need to go back to the drawing board and work on the idea until you can get at least an advisor excited about your vision. And so ultimately, we looked at the different services, and the average person spends 15 grand before they even launch, right? And that's not to talk about, then what people spend on all kinds of things post-launch. But they spend on average on like logos, on landing pages, on pitch decks, and there's a few other things. Those are the main things. And so we've put together a suite of services to be able to get this done and get this done right. Okay. I think prototypes. Thank you, Alex. That's another one of those categories. Not everybody needs to pay for these things. And by all means, like, if you feel like you don't need to, then don't. Okay. Everything about building a business is conserving capital until you're making more of it than you're spending, right? So by all means, do not spend money that you don't need to spend. If you're going to spend money, most of these people, the most disturbing part about the fact that we learned was that of that 15 grand, over a third of it, it was close to 40%. So it was like 36%, 38%, I forget off top, of that money is redoing bad work. So you go and you get a logo on Fiverr, and then somebody tells you that it's terrible. And then so you get like another logo, but like a more expensive freelancer. And then 2 years later, you recognize that that's terrible. By the time you launch, people aren't even realizing how much they're spending money and re-spending money in order to do that. So part of what we're doing is we're working hard to create vetted, verified services within our community. So if you click that button and you pay for a service within our community, you don't need to. But if you're going to pay for a service, you know that this is one that you can trust and you're going to get absolute quality when you do it. So there's our services. Those services aren't right for everybody, and nor should they be. Okay, so some people are going to want more of like a workshop or a training to be able to do that themselves. So we're creating a layer of courses for people to be able to do that for themselves. And of course, there's going to be, if you want that year-long curriculum that we talked about, like I said, maybe the go-to-market strategy isn't happening until June. You want it right now. You'll be able to do that course on demand and do it at your own pace. If you want that facilitated, we're going to cram that whole year's worth of curriculum. We're going to put 12 months into 12 weeks and have that facilitated by VCs themselves, and other corporate strategists, experts in the field that will go along the journey with you. So all of these are different options. We were really, really intentional. We spent a long time figuring out what are things that do people need and what don't they need, right? We started from first principles and really went like this was just going to be a channel where you could have office hours with me. But then we tried to predict what are the things that are going to be the most helpful for people. Courses aren't everybody's bag either, and so we're also creating a suite of DIY kits. That'll be a walkthrough video, a walkthrough PDF, and a bunch of worksheets for you to do it totally on your own. You don't have to interact with anybody necessarily. And if none of that is right for you, just show up to the weekly office hours. That's it. And so that's kind of the way that we imagine this community running. And then let's talk about the big kahuna, right? How do we get funding? There's basically 4 ways that we're going to be offering funding to people through this community. And again, like, I'm not even going to talk to people about funding if they're not a badged member, right? So take the time. It'll take you like 30 minutes max to become a badged member. And what we're going to do is the first way to get funding is bootstrapping. Like your clients are your investors, right? That sounds like, big, like, wind out of the sails. But I'm telling you, I can't tell you enough how much, the average VC fundee relationship looks like, if you're standing close enough to it, you can't tell who's exploiting who. What often ends up happening is the moment you get funding, you become an employee to those investors. You're working to execute their vision. And this isn't all the time. This is most of the time, especially the first time you start making mistakes and it looks like you're not going to be able to create a return on capital. Then you're going to lose the control. And the whole game is like what you're doing when you take that money is you're agreeing, you're committing that this isn't about building my vision. This is about getting you a return on investment. Okay. And so I don't think taking capital is the best way to build a business. And so what we need lots of experts to help you understand what is the best bootstrapping strategy. How do we gen up our own capital really quickly so that we can build our own vision and keep all of our company? That is, I swear, my goal for 99% of the businesses in this community. The next step is going to be seed strapping. So some companies are going to make sense. They're going to be able to bootstrap for themselves. They just need a little push. And so right now, in that case, there's 2 ways that you can solve that issue. One is an SBA loan, which is scary because you are immediately on the hook for loan repayment payments. And that itself puts a different pressure on the business that can choke it, right? The other option is some level of angel investment. These are really difficult to structure. And ultimately, you end up giving up a portion of your business when you just needed a little push. And so there's a new model. And there's going to be more details coming out on this later. And legally, I have to be careful. So I have to leave it a little bit vague until we can release a whole paper on how it's going to work. But imagine, basically, that you can get a loan and you don't have an immediate repayment plan. There's targeted milestones that then creates a return for the investor, right? And then at the end of that, your equity goes back to the business, right? Like no ownership held. It's held as collateral, but other than that, you get once you return the investment for the investors, you get your money back or you get your business back. And you don't have a bunch of people in the cap table, and you're not having to pay out other people. And so this is a structure that we're working on now. There's more information coming out on it. The third option is we have a large network of angels and LPs in our community. And so as somebody hits milestones, we're going to work with you. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you bring me something that's not an investable idea, I'm going to tell you that's not an investable idea. But here's how I could imagine it being investable. Or here's one path. Or if you don't like my idea, keep shopping it around to other people in the community until you get that into an investable idea, right? My promise to our investors is that we will not put people before you who really are not ready for investment. Right? That's the thing, right? Imagine investors. Some of my friends, they're seeing 1,500 pitches per year. And I hear of people, I don't know any, but I hear of people who are seeing a lot more than that, which is insane to me. I can't even imagine 1,500. How are you really like understanding a business? Like you're not. You're getting a sense for a vibe and probably playing into your own biases, whether you even mean to, right? Good investors hate this model. And so the idea that, hey, we're going to have great playbooks. We have a great structured curriculum. As they go through that curriculum, hit certain milestones, we're going to ring the bell and say, hey, we've got another person who's hit this milestone. Does anybody want to invest? And so the first option we'll have there is to create a special purpose vehicle, an SPV, specifically for that company at that stage. And so, again, more details to come in all of this. Our kind of head of investment strategy, we've got a great guy doing it, and he's led corporate innovation consultations for a lot of folks. He's led venture building efforts for a lot of folks, and he himself started a big Silicon Valley venture capital fund and innovation lab. So he's helping us figure out what are our investment options as people hit those milestones. And then finally is just a regular VC, right? And so we're working with a new approach to VC that looks a lot more like private equity. I could go really deep on this because I love the subject, but for most people, they don't even know what all the differences are, and finance talk is really boring. So I won't go that deep into it right now. We will have sessions speaking directly to this, or if you want to know specifically, show up at the next office hours and ask me. But ultimately, instead of like unicorn hunting, that instantly creates like what we call a perverse incentive, where you get these entrepreneurs, they're not trying to like build a good, durable business that adds value to their customers. They're just trying to build the next unicorn. That is a function of what the investors are looking for, because the investors are looking for 100x. Okay, so it's common to say they're looking for a 10x return, but they're actually not. Because they need that one return to carry for the rest of the fund, they need to shoot for something that's 100x return. So if you don't have the opportunity to create a 100x return, you're probably not a good look for most of those kind of unicorn hunters. We're not doing that. We're working with investors that are looking for modest 3 to 5x returns, and they want you to create something that is going to be a durable business over the long term. There's also some things that are going to be some things just need venture capital, right? Like if you're going to build the next SpaceX, if you're building rockets, you're not going to do that without capital. You're not going to bootstrap your way there, right? So we recognize that. We want to create those options for folks where venture capital is actually very, very necessary. But with that, we're not letting any venture capitalists in who are predatory. We're not doing it. Our venture capitalists need to be bulls too. And so we have so far a $200 million fund that has committed to solely funding businesses that are members of our community. And $200 million already committed. We have another fund really close to committing now that'll put us right around $300 million. And I think, certainly by the end of 2026, I think we'll have $500 million in committed funds that are directly going to fund businesses that come out of this community, this style of entrepreneurship. So I saw some claps there. I appreciate it. I'm very excited about that. That wasn't even part of the plan. We were just wanting to create a community. As we spoke to investors about it, they were like, man, who do you think we want to fund? We want to fund entrepreneurs like what you're talking about. So if you can put together a community that has that, that's where we'll put our money. So the opportunities are there. But again, everybody gets really excited about access to capital. I hope you never have to take it. I sincerely hope we can teach you how to build a business all on your own that has the scale to make you happy and feed your family and do all those things and is yours. The moment it starts to become somebody else's, your motivation in it starts to drop. And so I think it's really great when we can put something together that you get to keep the bones of your business. It becomes yours. As we talk more, I'm limited on time today, but in the future, also our office hours, I've blocked out a huge block of time so I can stay and run over. But in our office hours, we're going to talk about some examples of bootstrapped companies that have been fabulously successful and how you can apply it to your own business. So finally, let's talk about plans. Okay. So the first plan I want to talk about is, we call it the bullet train. And the bullet train is basically our team of experts are going to build the business around you. And this is, I think we've priced this at $38,000. You can imagine if you are a corporate, if you're a corporation and you're funding a venture firm to build a venture for you, it's extremely expensive. We've done this at the 55,000 price point. Ultimately, we're able to cut down costs because it's your idea. And when you're building a venture for a corporation, usually you're building the team for them too. So this is your idea. This is you're going to do the work, and we'll help you recruit a team, but ultimately the team is you. It's your team. And so ultimately all we have to do is advise and build this thing up. And so 38,000 is like a steal of a price point. It's as small as we got it down to. In fact, it's so small of a price that we don't think, I don't think we're going to be able to constrain our hours to that. I think probably the first 2 or 3 people that we do it with are going to get like 50, 60K in value for 38 grand. So that's if you want someone to build a business around you. For some people, they're going to feel like 38 grand, like I don't got that, and that's fine. Some people are going to hear that and say, holy smokes, like that's a steal. Let me drop 38 grand and have all these problems solved. For the people that 38 grand is like way outside of their range, that's totally fine. We're taking all comers. The second tier down is what we call the bull run. And I talked about that a little bit before. This is the 12-month curriculum in 12 weeks. And so expert facilitated our whole curriculum, 12 weeks, you build no nonsense business and are ready for launch. And this is coming in somewhere, it's like the 65K or 6,500. So $6,000, 12 weeks, and that business is ready to launch. Expert facilitation. And part of launching, hopefully, every situation is different, but probably you launch with a rockstar advisory board too. And launch means a plan for an exit, whether that's keep the business forever and run it like your granddad's donut shop or something, or like be prepared to be able to have be acquired by somebody else, or what it looks like. What is the pathway to take a business public? If we build a business with you, we'll start with the exit in mind. What is the goal here? And then including does this need to get funding? So a funding strategy is part of that launch plan. And so like I said, that's like a bit over $6,000. The step right below that we call the bootstrapper. So this is for everybody, who just wants to come in and experience the curriculum over the course of the year, go to the office hours, be a part of what we're doing. And for that, I'm looking for a commitment from people for $100 a month. And why do we do that? Trust me, we could do this for free, and we could do this for 10 grand a year. Where do we hit pricing on this? And the reason why I landed on $100 a month is that I want you as invested in what we're doing as we are. I promise you, we're going to create way more than $100 worth of value each month. And so, I could do it for free, but everything, in fact, the research shows this. You could talk to Gina Bianchini at Mighty Networks. She'll tell you, the folks at school, both Alex Hormozy and Sam Ovens will tell you that free communities are like jam sessions. It's not really where people go to work. It's where people go to hang out. And so we want some element of hangout here, but we really want people who are serious about building businesses. So that being said, if the $1,200 mark is absolutely it's just not going to work for somebody, if you have a true financial hardship and you can't commit that $100 a month, I will absolutely work with you. I don't want anybody. I was definitely once that person who did not have $5 in their bank account. I would hate for somebody to be turned away on finances alone. That's not my ethos, right? We have room for scholarships for people for financial hardship. I'm happy to let people in. I know some folks are in different financial situations. I know some folks are coming from different countries where $100 a month isn't the same thing in Kyrgyzstan as it is in the United States. And so we have room to create these scholarships. The one thing that I ask, right? Like I said, the only reason we're charging $100 a month is because I want people really invested in what we're doing. Okay. And so all I ask of you is that if you request a hardship from us, or if you come in on a hardship membership, no one else will know, but I want that commitment from you that you will be 100% all in, totally invested in this community, and help us build it into what we believe it can be. Because that's my biggest fear in the free memberships, is that it's just too easy to not really be invested. Whereas the people, if you're paying $100 a month for this, you're going to make sure that this community becomes the value that it needs to be for you and for everybody else, right? I am only so scalable. My friends, my advisors, they're only so scalable. But it's really when we can develop each other that this whole thing's going to come together. That brings me to a couple of last notes as we come to the end here. I'm going to send everybody who is on the call a follow-up email, and we're going to have discounts also for people since you're kind of early adopters. But again, there's that hardship that's available for folks if that's the situation that you're in. We're also going to be profiling members, spotlighting members to our community and beyond. And so it's another opportunity. We want to get you connected to anybody that's going to be helpful to you and get more attention to you out in the online sphere. We work with corporate innovation folks, and so we have say a meeting several months ago, the world's largest retailer talked to us about, hey, we're looking for this very specific type of packaging. If somebody builds a business like that, let us know and we'll invest in it. And so this is a great opportunity for synergy, that even if you're not even sure you have an idea, you just know you want to build a business, we're going to be delivering opportunities that we know are investable, that we're hearing from corporates they want to see this type of startup be built. We're also going to be doing some great stuff around mindset coaching as well, right? Businesses aren't mechanisms. They're groups of people. That includes you. Part of what it takes to be successful is the mindset of a winner. It's emotional groundedness. It's the ability to lead. It's the ability to inspire and lead a team. All those things. So we're going to be building those skills as well. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that people are going to donate their time for, and then stuff that's going to be extra excursions we could do together. and a whole mindset curriculum that we're going to institute at some point as well. It's not quite ready yet. Um, and I've talked to so many of you, and I'm most excited about is that there are way more people on this call who can add value to our members than just me, right? And so I want to create the opportunity for you. The real magic to me is who you can be in this community. I want to create the platform by which find your genius and get to share that with the community. Um, and then over time, how we're going to expand nationally, internationally. The final thing that I'll say on this, like, I really hope if this isn't for you, that's totally fine. I totally understand. If this is for you, if you're interested in building businesses, building durable businesses that just make money, that aren't like hype machines, if you're interested in helping other people do that for themselves and access that kind of freedom that they can have, I implore you to join this community and help us build it. And if you have ideas, please share them, either of stuff you want to see us produce, people you want to see us bring in, or like ways that you can add value to the community, ways that you want to, volunteer your resources, your skills. We're really structured about how we're doing it because we're basically creating a guarantee both to our members and to our investors. But if you can do that, if there's something that you want to give to this community, please contact me and let me know. Like I said, thanks for joining. I'm bringing this plane in on time. I really appreciate everybody's time and willingness to join. I'll send a follow-up for everybody who is here. And please, regardless of if you join or you don't join, let me know what you think. And I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors. Please keep building. It's what makes any country, any society great. It's the work we do together. Thanks again.